exciting musical things that I experienced cantorially in Winnipeg was the Koussevitzky brothers. There were 4 brothers in this order, I believe: Moshe, Yankov, Simcha, and David. I heard Moshe when I was 14, but before that, I heard David Koussevitzky, who was the closest to him. People from the Met, like I later knew Jan Pierce and others, great singers of our time, said Moshe had the finest head voice. That's the lighter part of the voice in the tenor range of anybody they ever heard. And I kibitzed with Jan Pierce. We were close friends by that time. I was driving him around. And I said, he even had a better head voice than you. And I knew he did. And he said, oh, don't give me that. I can't use the word in public, to make a good impression on people. David was the closest to Moshe. And I talked to him and I said, someday I want to study with this man. I was 10. There were 4 Koussevitskys in the world after World War II, 2 in New York, the heyday, and the greatest place of cantors in the world. Moshe was at Bethel. That was where the star cantor of the generation was. Moshe and David were in New York. Simcha was in Cape Town, South Africa. One of our members sang with him as a little boy, Mr. Borak. And Jacob Koussevitzky. Guess where Jacob Koussevitzky was a cantor? Winnipeg. Can you imagine? 2 of the greatest big Jewish centers, New York and South Africa, and we had a Koussevitzky. You know why? Because the Jews of Winnipeg loved cantorial. They ate and sang and lived cantorial, and they would talk about who was the best of the brothers. Vocally, there was nobody like Moshe, but as a kid, I heard a lot of people said Jacob was the sweetest of all. What a sweetness. Wasn't a big voice, but full of heart. So I'm 14 years old. I went to the Talmud Torah Orthodox Day School, but I was in the youth group at USY, because USY was conservative. Like if you liked a girl, you could hold hands if she let you hold hands. In the Orthodox school, you wanted to hold hands with Rabbi Whitty or Rabbi Kravitz. Shake it, what do you mean holding hands? You don't hold hands with a girl. You're not married, right? I'm telling you the truth about my life. So when I heard Moshe, that anniversary of Jacob's passing, about 2-3 years after I was 14 years old, about 1959, I believe. He was so spectacular. I'm not a shy person, but his singing was so phenomenal. Friday night, he did close to 3 hours, Kabbalah Shabbos and Mariv. And then Saturday morning, he started at Ein Kamocha at about 9:30, and he finished 1:45, the end of Musaf. And I couldn't move. It was so, what he did was, it seemed to me that time, it was the only time, that weekend is when I heard him. He passed away a few years later. It was so phenomenal. Passion and ease of production. And I watched the choir. Sometimes Mrs. Udo, the choir director, was a conservative shul. He did sing. He was in an Orthodox shul in New York. He sang in conservative shuls when he had to do it. He did it. What am I trying to say is that the choir, sometimes they couldn't come in. He was so phenomenal. His slavas, his dedication, his masikas, his sweetness. So I heard Moshe Koussevitzky. I'm not a shy person, and I couldn't leave the building because I wanted to see him close up. He was so short. When you saw him on the pulpit, it looked like the guy was gigantic. And I wanted to talk to him, and I couldn't muster up the courage. So I never talked to Moshe Koussevitzky.